what are we going to do to engage these people to where people who aren't fans of dirt track start to tune in? NASCAR, they just came out with their second doc series on Netflix. F1 went from a 112% market share, did one season of Netflix. They now have 430% market share of all viewership in the United States. This is what our sport needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, you wanted it, you got it. The place for the untold, real, raw, and juicy stories of dirt track racing. It's Dirt Track Confessions. And now here's your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney.
Hello everyone, welcome to Dirt Track Confessions. I'm your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney, and today we have Jesse Douglas, the creator of DirtCo Media, joining us. Jesse, how are you over there? What's going on?
I am well. We are doing what we do, and that's living the road life, making films.
Heck yeah. So, kind of just give us like a background. I don't know how quick you can make your background, but like, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? You know, how did you end up here?
Okay, so the quick and dirty, right? For the dirt track stuff. I'll speed you up. I grew up in California. I was born and raised there. I grew up, my dad raced late models out in California. So I grew up at Placerville, which to me is one of the greatest speedways in the history of ever. It's unique, it's different, and it's where I grew up. So I had a background around being around racing. I kind of took some time off because I got into sports as a kid from like 13 to 17. And then when that didn't pan out the way it was supposed to in baseball, I kind of went back to my roots and started getting heavily involved in racing. So by the time I was about 23 years old, I'd worked my way up, and I actually went to work on a World of Outlaw team for my first time. For a guy named, you guys might know him, Jack Hodenshield. You've heard of that guy, right?
Maybe.
And so I did that for a better part of a decade, just working on teams and wrenching and crewing, crew chiefing here, just basically making my way in the sport. And then there was a bit of a tragic incident that happened where I had to kind of come home off the road, and I wanted to be involved in racing still. I just was like, man, how do I stay involved? Well, I'd always been enamored with the production side of things, especially like freestyle motocross, the way the motocross industry was doing their thing, and just extreme sports in general. Other than loud pedal productions, I just didn't see that in the industry at all. To be perfectly honest, it's like, God, this is the baddest sport on planet Earth, and it's got the worst content. Like, it's just bad, all bad, right? Except for loud pedal. And so when I saw him and what he was doing, I was just making little, highlight videos on my cell phone. And I saw what he was doing. I was like, I'm going to do that. This sport deserves something like that all the time. Long story short, I made a couple videos, a couple people took interest. And for the next couple of years, I just bootstrapped every dime I made and just put it back into buying better equipment and learning. The way the DirtCo came about was one day I took some footage from some promos I made in California, and we kind of put together a little de facto movie trailer, kind of like just what I call a concept trailer, just to see if there was some interest. And we posted it. Within 2 days, it had over 1 million views on Facebook. Like 19,000 shares and 26,000 comments. This told me Dirt Track is ready for their first feature-length film. Mm-hmm. So I basically emptied out my savings account, bought my DirtCo van, the 69 Econoline that I still have to this day. I know honestly, it's kind of like the brand ambassador for the whole company. Everybody loves that thing. Mm-hmm. I bought that, and we went and made a movie for a year. We lived out of the van and just made We Are Dirt. And it went ballistic. I think we had unit sales in 22 different countries within 6 months. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it kind of put us on the map. Going forward, I just felt like we need to parlay this and keep the momentum going and just bang the drum of dirt track to the heavens until somebody freaking listens. You take somebody like the Chaz. He does that, right? I thought we'd do it through, like, engaging content. Basically, when I got with my partner who I started DirtCo with, I said, man, let's just make content that people can't deny. Right? I mean, like, they won't be able to deny what we're making here. And so that kind of led into DirtCo being made into DirtCo. And to this day, we are still we've expanded into other sports. We do everything from like UFC to PBR, feature-length films, documentaries, but our sweet spot and what I truly love to do is the doc series, and especially on dirt track or motorsports, just because there's so many interesting stories that don't get told because of the lack of content that's out there at the high end.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we're just going to keep banging away and making sure that dirt track has a proper voice.
Dude, you have come a long way, and I feel a really short amount of time. Although for you, it might not, because like you're doing it every single day. Like that's
Well,
impressive.
so the way I approach it is I always want to be who I'm going to be 5 years from now. That's who I chase. So if I
Yeah.
keep chasing that guy, I'm never going to stop leveling up and growing, right? So
Mhm.
never satisfied, but taking the wins when they come is kind of the way we roll.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so we push ourselves, you know what I mean? And that's why, like, there's starting to be a lot of content creators in the space. And I think that's good. For one, competition in our industry, it's only going to make people better. You
Mhm.
know, if I see something and I'm like, ooh, that was good, game on.
Level up.
They up the level, so let's go and up the level. Then they'll up the level because to me, like I never mind imparting knowledge or sharing or collaborating with other filmmakers in our
Mhm.
space because I just want the content in our space to be as good as it can be. Right, the rest of it will take care of itself. Like the fact that we're making films or we're making doc series, it could all be good if we all push each other to that next level. You know, I mean, your show, like all the different content offerings that are out there now in the past 2 years have gotten significantly better and significantly more regular.
Yeah.
That warms my heart, right? Because I came into this when there was nothing, absolutely nothing. There was no such thing as TikTok and all the platforms that you could take advantage of now to truly put your sport, your genre, or your brand on display. It just wasn't a thing yet, you know.
So true.
So seeing it now and what it's evolved into in a short amount of time is it does it makes us happy here at DirtCo.
Yeah. And our
Yeah.
sport needs it. Our sport so needs it. So, okay. So Jesse, tell our listeners about, some of the filming that like you kind of like sprinkled some of it in there of what you've done, that our listeners like in the dirt racing world kind of know of. And I know as we're listening, some are still being released. So
Right.
kind of shine light so we
So
can
one of the
connect.
major projects we've been on in the last, I'd say, 2 years is Race Ready, featuring Sheldon Hodenshield and kind of his travels and his experiences racing, the ups, the downs. Um, we wanted to create basically a Netflix level series that Sheldon could have for his platform and the DAC, um, who sponsored the deal, and it's presented by something that they could be proud of, something that they could truly say, hey, this stands apart from everybody else. And plus, it's Sheldon Hansfield. I don't know that you can get a cooler dude in motorsports, right?
Yeah.
So it's just been a pleasure and just fun and enlightening and challenging. When you roll around with a crew like ours, normally to create a doc series like that, they have an army of staff and production. We have max 5 at a time, and that's if it's a heavy execution like the Knoxville Nationals or the Kings Royal, Charlotte. We take bigger teams to those, but for the most part, we roll around with a 3-person team so that we can keep that intimacy that I think you need to film something like this. A lot of people bring these huge crews, and it's kind of intimidating, especially in dirt track, because they're not used to that. They're not used to being massive film crews in the pits and all over you and constantly asking questions and constantly needing reflection. And so we try and keep our crews in the dirt track space minimal, so it's just a more intimate feel, so we get more of that real and raw emotion. Um, and so, yeah, man, it's been great. We did that. I would say, 22, we worked on the Dirt series with Kyle Larson. We were
Hmm.
intricate and heavy into that. We've done everything from Live Like Legends platform that we created from scratch for them for Pit Stop USA. And then we've done a lot of individual films on racers and teams. We are currently in production, a 2-year production on Elijah Guile, who is an up and coming. He's 14 right now, and he's been racing only since he was about 10 and a half. Well, he's already in a 410 and ran fourth in Ohio last week.
Wow. Holy crap.
Right. So I know that in racing, like that doesn't seem like it's very young, but for a kid, to have the wherewithal and the maturity to be able to handle the situations that are thrown at you in those situations, it's just been phenomenal to cover. And what's great is we've been filming with him since he was about 11 and a half, 12 years old, which means from there to now, not only have we covered the progression of how he's doing in racing, we've actually watched this kid grow up on camera
Yeah.
and are continuing to do so throughout this year and part of next year. So
That's so cool.
being able to see somebody who isn't already like, oh, they're a hard ass, or, oh, they're, a methodical racer. He doesn't know. He's just learning what type of person he is, what type of racer he is. And to be able to like document that, it kind of like reminds you or reinstills the love of what that process is, right? Because you just don't get that a lot. Most guys are already who they are by the time we get to them. And we can tell their story, either what's going on now or what has happened. We're just catching this kid in real time growing up, and it's just this organic thing that's very special.
That is so neat. Okay, so my mind, like knowing you, knowing all that you do and all that you're covering, like what does a day in the life of Jesse look like? It seems like you're everywhere at all times. You're always on the grind. You're covering this, you're covering that. You're doing more than just sports. So like what's going on, dude? What is going on
So
in day?
we have our things that we know we have to do for the day. I usually try and take the first hour of my day and work out like a savage, just because anybody who knows me along my journey, my health journey is also something that has been very rapid, and I take very serious, because I believe that now that I know that my physical has everything to do with my mental, right? So to be mentally strong and good at business and good at filmmaking and good at creativity, your physical has to be there. So that's first and foremost. That is the second the eyes open, it's within 10 minutes, we're getting after it. We're going at it. So then I usually take all my meetings. I try and do anything that is left side of the brain thinking, which is your books, your accounting, your meetings, your pre-production, anything that is what it is, whether you think about it or not, it has to be done. We try and handle that before 1 o'clock. Anything after 1 o'clock is when the creative part of the brain actually takes shape. And so that's when we do things like our editing or any film shooting that wasn't scheduled earlier in the day. I mean, you can't always avoid it, because sometimes like the sun is king, so we plan around the sun. But we try and do all our creative stuff in the afternoon, where the brain is more settled into creative thought. And I had somebody actually teach me that, he writes books. And once I implemented that train of thought, it was like, wow, he's right. Like, there's certain times of the day where the brain just works better on certain things. So we try and handle the creative stuff later in the day. So it all depends. I mean, we're kind of like an IPA, right? It's always different. It's never the same. It's just a mixed bag of things that we have to do. But we try and plan it out to where we're at least 6 months out on projects that we're either planning, pitching, they're in pitch, or that they're in pre-production. I'm a pre-production fanatic, as anybody who works with me will tell you. I like things. There's no reason why, even though we're in a live setting or we're capturing things, what we call verite. Verite means you're covering it as it happens. You're not going back and telling the story. You're telling the story as it unfolds. There's still no reason why that can't be cinematic, or have a higher standard of quality to the film work that you're doing, to the cinematography, right? That doesn't need to be sacrificed. So you can do that through pre-production planning, like over and over and over again. Sometimes I might overdo it, but in my business, it's better to overdo it than underdo it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's just what a day in the life looks like. People always ask me, do you take time for yourself? No, I'm in love with what I do. So even if you were to say, hey, you know what, take a 6-month vacation, 5 months and 3 weeks out of that vacation, we're filming something.
Yeah.
Because that's just what we do. One, I got into this game kind of late. I'm not exactly a spring chicken, right? This is a young man's game. And so there's always that sense of urgency to build and to get better and to further. Plus, I'm just addicted to the process of making films. So that's basically what we do 8 days a week.
Dude, that's impressive. Well, you found a way to get paid for what you love.
Yeah, right. And less than 1% of Americans actually get to do that on a full-time basis. So trust me when I say I am honored, blessed, humbled, and I try not to. I mean, I'm human. Everybody's human. But the one thing I try and make sure we don't do is take for granted how blessed we really are to do this.
Dude, I love that. Oh my God. That's so cool. So cool. So proud of you. So happy. Like the journey, you never like, I don't know, 20 years ago, you probably never would have expected this or however long ago. And here you are,
Yeah.
so there's no such thing as like, it's never too late to make a change, to find what your passion is and go after it.
Every day is the day where you can say, okay, I'm done with all that. I'm going to go do what I want to do instead of what I have to do. Now, people could say, oh, well, I don't have the opportunity to do that. But here's the deal. Everything you do in your life, if you're not doing what you love, is just meantime things. It's just what you're doing to facilitate getting towards doing what you love, right?
Mhm.
So when people say, where do I start? Where do I get started? Well, what do you love? Because until you figure that out, until you figure out what your true passion is, you'll never know where to start. So you kind of have to hammer down what you're truly passionate about. If you're an underwater basket weaver, go be the baddest underwater basket weaver on planet Earth. Make baskets they can't deny, and the rest will take care of itself.
Mhm.
You know? So
Right.
that's kind of how we approach it. Just savage,
It's
go
great,
hard on
dude.
it. Yeah.
Yep, I got it.
Because if you don't enjoy the journey, you don't deserve the destination. And that's it. Like,
Mhm.
everybody's always worried about the destination. They forget to enjoy the journey. Well, your wins are made up of how your journeys are put together, not how you cross the finish line. You're crossing the finish line because of the building blocks you put together on the journey. So you gotta enjoy that, and you have to maintain positive attitude. I'm huge on energies. Um, Positive energy brings positive results, and negative energy brings negative results. So I've been I've been accused sometimes of auditing my life down to a certain core group of people, but that's just because I refuse to incorporate myself with anybody who might bring negative energy, because to me, it's kinetic. What you get put out is what you get back. So we try and surround ourselves with fellow savages who will chew nails to get the job done, and who love this, and who can do it with a positive energy, and stay humble as well. So
Well, this explains why we always vibe. Every time I see you, I'm
no.
like, yes,
Well, and
just
that's the
here.
thing. I mean, fellow um, people who collaborate and who get along well in business, who are hungry and who are ambitious, they usually click, right?
Yep.
Because they have this thing about them that says, well, I don't know how to lose because it never really occurred to me how to do so. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know how to lose because I just don't,
Yep.
it's never even been a thought in my brain, right?
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. Dude,
yeah.
you please tell me someday you're gonna write a book. You gotta write a book.
Well,
It's
I
like,
tell you this, I already have someone lined up to write it. I'm not going to write it. But my good friend Dave Argerbright, who
yep.
him and I talk constantly about all different types of things, just the industry and how our industry, as far as media goes, and just the sport in general. And that man is such a wealth of knowledge, and the way that he articulates our sport, I can't think of anybody else on the planet that I would have write a book about what we've done here when we're all said and done than him. So
Yeah.
he's
Amazing.
definitely the guy.
Good. I can't wait. I can't
Yeah.
wait. Okay, so all right, let's turn to film here. As much as I would we dude, we're gonna have to do a second episode because like I'm all about that stuff.
Yeah.
But circling back, the film piece, what elements, right? What elements do you believe like are the most crucial for creating that compelling film? Like we can talk about Sheldon's.
Okay. It's the storytelling, right? So, as good, how about this? Without any arrogance intended, as good as our stuff looks, because it does. Let's just be real. Like, if our stuff doesn't stand out to you, I don't know what the hell you're looking at. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But it's the storytelling that has to come first. It's the ability to not only coherently tell a story, but engagingly tell a story. And there's techniques in the edit and in the way that we tell stories that I hope, and it's shown, that keep you engaged through and through the whole way. Um, Basically, with the Race Ready series, one of the things that we said was going to be one of the core principles of it is, let's take people racing for that night or that weekend, and let them see things they've never seen before. They get to experience what it's like for Sheldon and his
Yeah.
team, and what it's like to truly be on the World of Outlaw Tour. The problem, not a problem, I'll say the challenge for the World of Outlaws is they race so much that they're never anywhere for that long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having, if you have 90 races a year, it's like having, 90 different relationships that you just pop into here and there and everywhere. People don't really get a true sense of what it is to engage with or to develop a relationship with these drivers. They think they do. They go, they buy the T-shirt, they make their pilgrimage for their one or two outlaw races a year, and they go see their guy, and that's awesome. But are they really forming and bonding a relationship? I mean, how much can you form a relationship 3 minutes in the pits after the races? We're trying to allow people that in to where they know the struggles, they know the situation, they know the personality, they know who Sheldon really is. And honestly, like the UFC, the stuff that we've done over there, they kind of gave us the blueprint on how that is. You will watch their doc series leading up to a fight for weeks, and then they turn the faucet off and say, now you got to pay us to see how it ends. And people just blindly just do it like crazy, right? This is why, and I'm not putting anybody on trial, but the World of Outlaws and Flow and everybody involved needs to get their doc series on their race teams going, because guess what? No one knows who they are. Like, prime example, let's just grab Justin Peck. They have no idea what's going on with him, what's going on in his personal life, family, kids, struggles. Maybe, he's dealing with a parent that's not well. Who knows? You'd never know. All you know is that he ran sixth at Port Royal on Friday. That's not enough, guys. That's not
Yeah.
enough. And if you can't look around to every other professional sport on planet Earth and see how they're doing it and why they're successful versus not, skateboarding content put skateboarding on the map in the 80s with the Bones Brigades videos. I must have played mine until the tape broke, right? X Games, NFL, UFC, the list just goes on and on and on. Every single one of those pro sports built their entire empire based off the content by letting you into the players' lives. NFL Films started in 1967. That means you can go all the way back there to the very first Super Bowl, and you can watch full blown, all access, mic'd up stuff of those guys way back then.
That's insane.
You have to
And
have that.
that's 60 some years ago, dude. And look at
Mm.
we're like just barely breaking the surface.
So the execution is this. Sometimes, and I'll just say this, sometimes when people are like, well, our shows are sold out and we have as many viewers on subscription as we're going to get.
Yeah.
But UFC didn't build their empire off of sustaining and making happy the people that they have. They made their empire by going after the people they didn't have. So if you're happy with who you have for a fan base right now, which is about 300,000 in Dirt Track, solid, right? And you have all the subscriptions you could possibly fathom for a Dirt Vision or a Flow, awesome. What are we going to do to engage these people to where people who aren't fans of Dirt Track start to tune in? They're only going to do that if they feel like, oh yeah, I know this driver. Yeah, like in fighting, right? We all think we know these fighters. Like the night of the fight, we know that they had a broken toe during training. We know that they were dealing with a weight cut. We know that their family members are, dealing with indictments or just whatever the case may be. By the time the fight night happens, you know everything about the fight, the dynamics of those two fighters, why they hate each other, why they love each other, and everything about their life. This is what our sport needs. NASCAR, they just came out with their second doc series on Netflix. F1 went from a 112% market share, did one season of Netflix. They now have 430% market share of all viewership in the United States. They at COTA, their race at COTA averaged about 30,000 people. The year after that Netflix doc came out, they were up at around 270. They literally couldn't facilitate all the people that went to the COTA race. That's literally, and they will tell you, directly related off of their content. The UFC was about to go bankrupt. They came out with this show called The Ultimate Fighter. Everybody knows that show. That literally saved the company. So again, I think on the live stream side of things, when they stop just being live stream companies and they start being an actual network providing content, all access content, they're going to start to see a shift in their viewership is not just going to be just the people who were already dirt track fans their whole life.
Are you enjoying this episode, want even more, or want a closer connection to the DTU fam? Join us over in Club DTU, where you'll receive early access to all of our podcasts, live race day updates, exclusive content, special merchandise, discounts, a community chat, personal recognition, and so much more. All inside one place, Club DTU.
Because we know we've been in this sport for how long? It's the average age of dirt track fans are over 41 years old, and they've been here for a long time. We're not doing anything to cultivate that younger audience, you know. Not to ramble, but like promoters, spend a little bit more money. It's not a lot. Make your show a show. Stop relying on the race cars on the track to provide your show. Because when you go to any big event like a UFC, that's just a small part of what you get. You go to a PBR event, half the show is the damn opening.
Yeah.
Pyro and fireworks. These are all things that can be executed to make sure people feel like this is an event they can't miss, whether the race is good or not. Mm-hmm. We got to start stepping our game up, guys. It can't just be Eldora or Knoxville that does this. It has to be pretty much everybody. I don't care. As long as you're making an attempt, grab a streamer and a popper when they go into victory lane. Do something. You know what I mean? Like make it a show, right? Mm-hmm. Like Barnum and Bailey's. The circus is a show top to toe. So I think that if we start doing that and get our content offering up, which, you know, certain like Flow is definitely in the past, because I used to work for Flow. I contracted a lot for Flow. They did a lot on that front. What I'll say is now that they have the High Limit series, I hope that they're doing that again. You know, the Dirt series on Kyle Larson was amazing. And I was so blessed to be one of the creators of that. David Kuhn and I, who's another DP, basically they came to us and said, hey, we want to do something that no one's done before and that we can be proud of, but that's different. We want it to be like the F1 show, but dirty. The F1 show's way too clean. It's nothing but money. They're going to Morocco and there's yachts and there's, you know, they're driving them through wineries, and that's awesome because that's F1. I mean, that's $1 billion a year budget for them. Yeah. So we went the other way and we got cameras and lenses and the production to be more gritty, more like real life doc series, right? Mm-hmm. And it came out incredible. You know, Fox Sports 1 picked it up and it was just incredible. So, yeah, I just think that we can continue to step our game up on the content front, and our sport's going to see the shift. But until we all sign on to it, I mean, you know, it's like, great, we can watch the races every night. We can watch 30 laps. What else can we do to get in touch with these drivers and figure out who they are? Because, like, fighters, they get ready, they train, they do all these extra things, where racers, it's a finite amount of time that they go do other things. So you kind of have to be there when they do that. Otherwise, if you think you're going to get all that like a day before, day of, or day after a race, you're out of your mind. They're traveling, they're setting up their motorhome. They chill all day long until it's time to get in the car. We wait all this time to finally film them, and the first thing they do is get in the car where you can't see them anymore.
Yep.
That's the challenges that we face as filmmakers and as documentarians, that the payoff for the viewer is that they don't get to see the athlete anymore. The car has to be humanized to where it's now the athlete. It's an extension, right? And that's where, if we do this right and we build these content platforms right, the sponsors get to see the benefit of that, because we're humanizing the car.
Yep.
That means the sponsors being injected in there organically, and they're just getting that much more engagement, right? Like, obviously, what do you think of when you think of NOS energy drink? You think of Sheldon Hodenshield and vice versa. Mm-hmm. They've kind of become one, right? He's a great brand ambassador for them. They're a great brand. They're doing amazing things in dirt track. They are really the only ones who have taken advantage of that and galvanized that into something where if you think Sheldon, you think NOS. If you think NOS, you think Sheldon. Other brands have got to get in on that, and they can do that through creative content. So that there's my rant. Everybody just needs to step their game up in the content side of things, and stop half-assing it. The sport deserves better. The fans deserve better. The drivers deserve better. As a team, how am I supposed to go get a corporate sponsor if the first thing they're going to ask me is, well, what's your social like and what kind of content's being created around you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I run for the highest level of – I'm at the highest level of my sport, but there's zero content. That says your sport ain't about shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it is, but that's what it says.
Yeah.
If I'm a corporation and all I care about is the numbers, like we're a business here,
Hmm.
what's your numbers? And I say, yeah, I race at the highest level, but our viewership is this big. Well, then your sport's not worth the squeeze,
Yeah.
right?
I've
So we have to step up to make that happen.
yeah, I've always so as a kid always preached how they need to make that connection with the fans in the stands to the drivers because all those fans are seeing, like you said, is the race car going in circles.
Yep.
Like majority of the people, they don't even know what they look like when they get out of the car, but they buy their t-shirts, you know?
Right.
So if you can make that bond, the amount of people that come up to us on a weekly basis that are like, we feel like we know you. You're always in our living rooms every night.
See?
Like that's what we need to do. Like I can binge watch Netflix. You know, like
Yeah.
my one girlfriend, never been to a race. I have known her for no, I won't say 30 years, like 20 years. She's never been to a race. Her and her husband hooked on the F1 series. And I'm like, who
See?
are
And
you?
so for that, guess what they're going to do every time F1 comes to America? They're
They're
going
gonna
to go. It's going to be one of their pilgrimages. It's
yeah,
going to be something that they like hold dear once a year, like
yeah,
that they wouldn't dare miss. And why? Because like a soap opera, they feel like they know the drivers in the series. They're knowledgeable. They can go to an event and go, Lewis Hamilton, he's going to get it this time. I just know it. He's
yeah.
been working out. Like they know what's going on, right? And
Mhm.
that's again something that we just don't have in our sport.
God, I can't
Not
wait.
yet, not enough.
Not yet. I'm gonna give it 5, 10 years. We're gonna circle back and we're gonna be like, look at this. So
Hell,
proud. So
hell yeah.
proud.
And we can
Yeah.
all win. That's the beauty of it is, to me, if we all just elevate our game, every filmmaker, every content producer, you, the Chaz, us, Ascent, just anybody and everybody, if we all just continue to up the level and it's not a race to the bottom,
Yeah.
which a lot of times it is because people, it's still a business. You're trying to secure accounts. You're trying to, so people start to, undercut rates and just offer more for less. And it pre-trains the industry to expect more for less when
Yeah.
really the industry should be just expecting more, regardless of what it costs or the how you have to get there because the macro is what we should all be thinking about, not just how's this going to affect me at this year's race or vice versa. You just we need to take a real hardcore. What's our 5-year plan look like, and then implement from there. So
Dude. Yeah. Okay. So, oh man, how do I just want to keep going down this. But my next question for you
yeah,
is no, okay, all of that being said, what would you say are the challenges that like you face? It could be as a filmmaker as a whole, or it could be you as Jesse, like in your business, like what kind of challenges, I don't know, what challenges exist out there for you?
well, I mean, there's always like the financials of it, right? Because we are a business, and so we want to make sure the dirt track has its best voice. But at the same time, I have to fiduciarily be responsible and say, "Hey, we shoot on RE cameras. That's the same thing they shoot like Transformers and big budget movies on, right?
Wow.
So that costs what it costs, right? We have poured I don't think I paid myself um, from my company in probably 2-3 years, just because I
Mhm.
continuously just reinvest in,
Yeah.
like I live out of a Sprinter van. Why? So we can save money and do productions at a more affordable rate, so that we could offer people our level of filmmaking at a rate that they can afford.
You're
Or a
investing
rate
back.
that's yes.
Makes
And
sense.
so our biggest challenge is getting people to understand the balance between what this actually costs, or what if you were to call Hollywood, or if you were to call like a big time film company and have them come in and do it, we're still cents on the dollar to get it
Yeah.
done. But there's that balancing act. The other is, for me personally, when I find that I care more about what we're filming than the person I'm filming, sometimes that's a problem. And I have this thing about me where you never have to know what I'm thinking, right? And so sometimes that poses an issue because diplomacy is important, but at the same time, and I don't know if I can say this on here, this is the internet, I'm allergic to fuckery.
Yeah.
Like I'm not about it. So if that's your game, if If you want us to create content and do all access, but you're actually not willing to give us all access, then I mean, we're probably not the ones that you want around,
Yeah.
because we dig deep. We take the approach like a documentarian would say if we were filming the cartels or some type of dramatic. That's how we approach it. We want to embed, we want to get deep, we want to give people. So for me personally, I again have to toe the line between being a business owner and having diplomacy and just calling it like it is as a director and a filmmaker. So there's that balancing act. The other challenges that we face, I would say, man, again, know what you're worth, guys. Stop racing to the bottom just so you got a camera in your hand and you're doing something. I mean, I agree, do passion projects and things like that. But as a whole in this industry, we need to stop pre-training people that what we do isn't worth that much, because it is. And the
Yeah.
fact that they just haven't seen it yet or haven't appreciated it yet, I don't know what to say. Like, if you're bitching about how much you get paid in this game, then stop being the one causing the problem. Right? So that's a huge challenge we face, is just making sure that as a whole, other collaborators, other filmmakers that I know and that I work with, that we kind of keep a collective thought, not like a union, but kind of like, all right, guys, I mean, we're investing our money, our time, our effort. Um, why do we continue to undercut things and devalue ourselves, but yet the quality isn't going anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
The amount of work we're doing isn't going anywhere. So that's a lot of the challenges that we face. Um, the other challenge that we face is being spread out between multiple sports takes a very careful logistical hand.
Yeah.
We are on the road 11 months out of the year filming. And so to keep that scheduled takes a team. I would love to say I'm just a whiz at it, but I have an amazing core group of people that are in this with me and that work at this with me, that I couldn't do it without. It just would be way too much for someone like me to handle. And so the three things that I think about when I have anybody on the team is A, pressure under fire. How do you handle yourself if shit goes sideways, right? Your integrity. Do you carry yourself with integrity and positivity versus negativity? And three, what do you want for yourself? Because I need you to want you to be a badass before you can be a badass here. So if you want to be a badass for yourself, oh, that's going to fit in right here, because we want everybody to win. I think that no one should have to lose for me to win. And so we can all eat. Let's go. Let's just be all dynamos around each other. So if you have those three things about you, jump in the van. Let's ride. We'll get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's go make some movies and make some films and enjoy the experience. Like, living the van life, you get to experience every mile, every inch, and you're forced to slow down and just take it all in. A lot of people don't do that, you know? They see the travels in the road as just a means to an end to get where they're going. I see it as it's part of the experience, and so we try and enjoy every inch of it.
I love that. It sounds like a good party man.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm I'm living the dream, blessed.
Good
Just
for
again, it just, when you do what you want to do versus what you have to do, life takes on a whole other thing. You start to things come into perspective that you never knew existed.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so question for you, because so I've worked with other filmmakers, more YouTubers like outside of racing. Now for you, let's say, and I wouldn't necessarily say Sheldon, but like anyone that you've worked with in the past, let's say that they're like you mentioned, is you're filming them, you're into it, but they're not into it. Like let's say you have this vision, and let's say that that person's personality is totally different. Like their personality is different. Maybe you don't vibe with it. Whatever. So my example in my head is like this other YouTuber I've worked with in the past. They don't do racing, right? So they can like create the entire storyline. But for me, Jesse, we could have like a 15th place finish night, and I'm like, who the hell wants to watch this? Like the personality. Like I guess this is a twofold question because you got the different
Let's
personality. What's that?
I said, let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's
Multiple
unpack
parts.
this. Because like for me, there's nights when I'm like, okay, this really was not that exciting. So, when you're doing a documentary on like a race car driver like Sheldon, like, okay, well, what if this one episode was kind of like, how do you
Man,
how do you fluff it? Yeah, how do you fluff that shit?
um, okay, so that takes us back to the challenge thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys are ego driven.
Yeah.
Period. They're race car drivers. They should be ego driven. Any pro athlete or anybody who's at that level should have just a little bit of ego about them.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're probably not one of the badasses of their sport. Right? Let's call it what it is. If you don't have swag, you're probably not one of the top guys.
Yeah.
Right? So a stab at that swag is when they have a subpar evening and they just don't want to. So what we do is we lean into that.
Okay.
If they don't want the camera in their face,
Put
well,
the
that's going in the episode that they didn't want the camera in their face. Like, you kind of have to precondition yourself to say, if things go good, we will almost seem like it wasn't going to go good. And then you get paid off with that it went well.
Mm-hmm.
That storytelling type of like that dramatic buildup of is it going to happen or not? But the flip side to that is when you don't do well, especially when you're with someone who normally does, now you've got dynamics like crazy that you can lean into.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, just keeping it real, is if you have a bad night, I'm more in your face. I'm pressuring you. I want you to slam the door in my face. I want you to tell me to get out of your trailer. I need you to show me the emotion that this is affecting you. If you're the type that's like, oh yeah, we'll get him next time. That is listen, if you are at any part of the top level of your sport and you are okay with not winning every single night, you're not ever going to be a champion. Champions don't think that way. Steve Kinzer didn't think that way. Sammy Swindell never thought that way. Kyle Larson doesn't think that way. He's the only guy in the modern era who, if he doesn't win, it's a loss. He's not going to say, oh, yeah, man, we've been in the top 3 for the last month. He don't give 2 shits about the top 3. If he's not winning, he's losing. It is a zero-sum game to a man like that. And that is why he is as great as he is, because he has that dynamic about him to where it's win or nothing.
Yeah.
Not, oh, we have speed, or, oh, we're doing well, or, oh, we're on the podium, we're getting close. Winners don't think like that. Champions don't think like that. Donnie Schatz never thought like that when he was winning all his championships,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I win races, the championships take care of themselves. That's a quote from Donnie Schatz all along the way. Like, so the true greats, they want to win or they are not satisfied. When you're dealing with people who are right with the subpar, oh, we'll get them next time. Yeah, I tend to push those people to be a little bit uncomfortable, so they'll give me their uncomfortable feedback.
Yeah.
And sometimes it sucks for them and it's a little uncomfortable, but the most important part is the production and making sure that people are engaged with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's how we deal with that. And that goes back to the challenge question. That is probably, I missed it, but that's probably the biggest challenge, is making sure that when things aren't just like jumping off the screen as far as dynamics, you sometimes have to go and uncover the dynamics under the rocks, right? Which, again, like you said, we ran 15th. Who the hell wants to see an episode about running 15th? Well, did 15th upset you? Are you a team that normally would run 15th? Because if not, do you have a problem? Is there a motor problem? Is your shock program off? Like, let's lean into why you had a subpar evening and why you're upset about it and why you care vehemently that that's not going to happen again. So you just kind of have to be like fluid to grab the dynamics as they're right there in front of you. Okay, we're going this way or we're going that way. So it's challenging and you have to think on your feet and you have to really, really know this sport to know. Because, again, certain people, they wouldn't know the difference between what's a good run and a bad run other than the place and the finish. They don't know what the dynamics are. I can see a car go around the track and go, oh, yeah, he faded with 10 to go. His right rear, he didn't. His tire didn't fire back off. That's why on the restart with 3 to go, he just was no good. He was better on the long runs. Any more than 7 laps under caution, he went and cooled his tire down in the dark part of the dirt. He's going to be good to go come this restart. Don't know many people that know the sport that well that also are creating content on it.
Yeah.
There's only a select few of us that are so ingrained in this sport first. Like, my DNA is racing. oh yeah, and I'm a filmmaker. So I hope it makes a difference in what our stuff looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, that was deep. Totally makes sense.
Deep.
So, those bad nights, I'm gonna go, Billy. Jocelyn told me to put the camera in your face.
So
Like,
Billy, why we suck? Just give
yeah.
it to him. Just give it to him. No
Good.
excuses. Let's hear.
No. Listen, like, dude, perfect example was just last week. Um, Mike gets dumped, right? Mike gets dumped and the video goes crazy and everyone's like, well, Mike was in the wrong or that guy was in the wrong. Like people go nuts. And I'm like, as a person, it makes us uncomfortable because it's like we don't want the drama. It's not what we're here for. But like the filming aspect, holy shit. They feed on it.
Look, the way I say it is like this. Like prime example. There are certain racetracks and people who are like, oh, I can't believe you'd film that. Bro, how is anybody supposed to appreciate how dangerous the sport is and how much these guys are putting on the line if we don't show you the consequences of this sport?
Mm-hmm.
So, frankly, I hurdle right over people that are like, oh, hey. You don't turn the camera off just as the guy's about to get knocked out if you cover fighting.
So true.
So why should we turn the camera off? I'll say this, even if somebody gets hurt, it's not like I'm in there graphically showing you their broken leg or that they might not ever walk again. But what I am going to show you is the dramatic moments where we start to figure out and realize that. And the reason why is because to appreciate this sport, you have to appreciate what these guys are putting on the line every single night. It's real easy to get numb to it, to be desensitized by the fact that these guys just walk away. These guys walk away because race cars are built very well, and you have to understand physics. Those ones that don't look that bad and the car instantly stops are way more damaging than the guy who yard sales his car down the front stretch, flips over the fence and lands on a Suburban out in a parking lot. I'll take my money on that guy being all right way before the guy who just got upside down one time and came to a straight stop.
Yeah.
It's just how physics work. Energy is displaced when you flip a lot, right? So to me, the nasty looking ones are like, okay, I think he's going to be all right. So there's ones where they instantly stop where I'm like, like this might not be good. So that being said, we have to cover it all, guys. Like, so if you're one of those track workers or tracks who are like, stop filming if somebody gets upside down, then 1985 called and they want their racetrack back. I don't know what else to say. Like, this is a dangerous sport. We have to show the danger for you to appreciate what these guys do.
Yeah.
So that's something that we deal with a lot, but we try and just, I don't know, I'll throw something on the ground and when they look that way, I run. I don't know. You have to get creative in the way that you cover the sport because there's so many people who just don't get what it is that we actually do. And that's, we cover everything. That's why our saying is shoot everything and sort the bodies out later.
I
Because,
saw that and I was like, bro, that's a good line.
yeah,
I like that.
because it's true. I mean, we just try and cover everything under the sun. And if I feel something is disrespectful or inappropriate, give me a break, guys. I will cut that out and edit. But I'm not going to not put it in there because I didn't have it. Or me and you, we don't have problems, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just how I look at it. Like, let me cover it. If it's inappropriate, it won't go in. But we're not going to go, oh, man, I wish we had that because some volunteer track worker was holding me up from getting onto the racetrack, especially when that racetrack or team is paying me to be there to capture those moments. That's another thing. Correlating when a track pays you to come do a promo, but yet none of the track workers who were volunteers got the memo and they're constantly forcing you to not do what you're paid to be there to do. It's like, if you pay us to come, tell your staff we're coming. Tell your staff, or if they have an influencer like you who could help promote their track, yes, you deserve special concessions.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's how it works. If Jeff Gordon showed up to your racetrack, you wouldn't not tell everybody he's there. So what's the difference? I mean, we're out here trying to help you promote your racetrack, your races, and your events, your drivers, your teams, your series. So give us the proper tools to do so, which most do. Like, I'm not saying the whole industry is like that, but there are certain places, and it seems like the lower level places that we go have the biggest problem but yet we'll go to major motorsports or sporting events, and it's like they welcome us right in because they know what we're doing. You
Yeah.
know,
Spot
so
on, dude. Spot on. Yeah. What's the crap? I can't think of the word, but like having the conversation, just filling people in. Communication, that's my word, just
there we go.
communication. People need to learn communication skills, yes.
Well, they just need to learn what the end goal is, right? And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
knowing that if somebody comes in and has a better way to get you there,
Hmm.
again, you get a lot of proprietors of businesses who just, it's their way or the highway. They're so used to barking orders over the radio and having it. It's like, guys, if you really truly want to embrace what we're doing here, you have to give us the freedom to do so. You know,
Preach.
part
Yeah.
of part of that is, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying about the challenges of working with the guys who, like, how do we actually get access? Well, one, trust. Like, I can walk in any trailer pretty much at any racetrack and be like, hey, fucker, you got a water in your fridge? Okay, go grab one. Like, we just got it like that. When you have that kind of rapport with the race teams and they trust that you do things are badass, they trust that your stories are going to be the best, like, it opens up everything, right? They give you access that they don't give anybody else. Two, if I do film with somebody who's new, cameras don't get brought out until you and I have a relationship. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to spend a day together. We're going to hang out at your shop. We're going to find out what you got going on in your life. We're going to find out, like, are you timid? Are you a lion? Are you a sheep? Like, I have certain things that I do when I hang out and build rapport with people that kind of tell me a laundry list of who they are. So I know how to film them. And I have those extra dynamics going into filming at the racetrack that I wouldn't have had if I just showed up and filmed you at the racetrack.
Yeah.
It's important to build rapport in any kind of filmmaking, whether it be sports or anything. What happens is when you build that rapport, you almost turn the athlete or the person you're filming into a de facto producer. They're just as invested in the process as you are now, and they'll go that extra mile to facilitate the filming, and it just starts to really snowball into this organically beautiful thing, so that by the time we get to the racetrack, it's knuckle bumping, what's up, dog, maybe a little hug, love, it's beyond the filming. So the filming just kind of organically takes care of itself because we're all like this.
Hmm.
I'm a huge proponent of that. Now, you can't always do that, especially
Yeah.
if you're dealing with superstars who have handlers or agents, and they're available from 1 to 1:30, and that's all you get them. It is what it is. You have to deal with that. But for the most part, I try and embed with people, build relationship, and then we can get to filming. I found that to be so much more successful on all fronts. The that veil of like not being able to get in their shell just lifts and goes away. They start telling you stories. They start becoming more emotional. They start the ability to grab a male, especially professional athlete, and get them to be vulnerable on camera. It's an art.
Hmm.
It's an art that we are starting to get very good at. We haven't perfected it because I don't believe you can perfect anything ever. But it's definitely something that I've worked on really hard in my filmmaking career, is how to build rapport and get vulnerability out of people. It's the
Yeah.
number one emotion people want to see in any crime drama and anything. Even the bad guy has to be vulnerable at some point. And so we have to dig in and find that. And that's, I think, one of the things that separates our films from everybody else is we get into the vulnerable areas that most people don't ever have a chance to even see, let alone get into. So we pride ourselves on that.
Spot on. Spot on. Okay, so um, love that. But you know what? I kind of want something juicy, Jess. I kind of want just I want a little juicy juice. So, like, I don't know what you're allowed to tell, but
Now I'm
give
intrigued.
give us like your most like wild story. You know, like you told me some things, but like what can we share?
Um,
Because
I'll
I'm sure you've
say,
seen a lot.
let me think on this. I mean, because I've done everything from hang out the back of cars at 80 miles an hour to film out of weather balloons and everything in between. But I will say that probably the craziest moment in my filmmaking career was I spent 6 months embedding with some cartel kids in Phoenix, Arizona, who do what's called underground street takeovers.
Mm-hmm.
They take over the streets, they do donuts, they basically just do street shit, right? Just what I call hood culture. They take it over, they light off fireworks, they play loud music, it's the cruising of their generation, because you're not allowed to cruise anymore. So now they don't ask permission. They just take the whole damn block over. Well, what they do is they block off the intersection, and then they go 7, 8 deep with cars behind there. So even if the cops show up, no one can get in. And they continue doing their thing for at least 15 minutes before they bolt and go to the next location. Well, it took me a long time to gain the trust of these guys to be able to come and film in bed and start doing it. Well, I finally did. And we went to Compton, California, which is as you know, like Compton's one of the most known hoods on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Well, we're filming there, and like velociraptors, 2 dudes come up from one side, 2 dudes come up from another side. What's the 18th Street Crips? And the first thing they tell me is, give me your damn camera. Or as they would put it, come out your camera right now. Well, I'm like, this camera's my life. So I basically was like, y'all are going to have to kill me to get, like, and I'm tucking it, holding it.
Okay.
They were getting ready to piece me up and take my camera. And finally, the guy who hosts these street takeovers, he has a megaphone. He's kind of like the MC.
Mm-hmm.
He hypes up these things while they're going on. He looks over and he goes, hey, he's with us. And they were like, all right, Doc, your lucky day, basically, and left me alone. And so they have these underground 4chan message boards that that's how they tell everybody where to show up and the addresses. So it's a secret. They basically put it out in a mass message on their little secret messenger to watch out for the big guy with the camera. He's with us. Basically, essentially giving us what's called a hood pass. So now I can go anywhere in LA, anywhere in Phoenix, anywhere in New York, anywhere in Philly, anywhere in Detroit, where these guys are kind of like networked, and we have full reign to film anytime we want.
You got the hood pass.
But man, whew, I was like, I saw my whole life flash before my eyes, and I was like, oh, Doc, this is going to hurt. But
It's going to hurt.
hang the hell on, because like I told them, I said, you don't have to kill me, Doc. And they were like, no problem. I mean, they were like full on ready to get after me. But I would say that's probably the scariest and wildest. The second one, again, filming the same thing, was we have what's called journalistic privilege as documentary filmmakers. In 38 states, cops cannot subpoena my footage. They cannot ask me to testify. I could film you doing any crime on planet Earth as long as I don't participate or facilitate it. As a documentary filmmaker, I have journalistic privilege, which means my footage is like a journal. It's completely non-admissible.
Like patient confidentiality kind of thing?
Basically.
Okay.
And people are like, nah. It's like, what do you think? Netflix is just like, we'll worry about it later? No, they know there's journalistic privilege. You have to be able to film certain illegal acts and be able to tell documentaries about it without anybody getting in trouble. Meaning, no drug dealer on planet Earth would go on a documentary and be like, yeah, I sell drugs and this, that, and the other. But because then the cops would just show up 10 minutes later and be like, yeah, we know what you did. So we take advantage of that. And journalistic privilege allows us to go into some pretty deep things and film it and be all right. So cool. We live off of that quite a bit. We don't ever have to deal with that in racing, obviously, because, people aren't doing illegal things. But when you film in some shadier or more underground scenarios, which we have, and we have a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out in the next year and a half that no one's even seen, heard, or talked about, that I think is really going to shock everybody what we've been up to.
Okay.
We'll just say that.
So speaking of, because I hope it's okay, I'm gonna say it anyways, is you moved to the East Coast.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so excited. So what's the plans? Like, what's on tap? Like, you have like a lot of people like reaching out to you. Like, what do we 6 months beyond? What do we have?
The Northeast presents a very lucrative, if you'll say, and exciting possibilities. The fact of the matter is, in 5 hours, I can be in like 6 major cities, right? And all of those cities have just these huge communities of filmmakers and films and just things that are happening. Other than racing, my favorite thing to film is urban street life. Period. I love it. I was born and raised in it. I love the texture. I love the realness. I don't think you get any more raw or real than either the Western lifestyle or the urban lifestyle. It's just gritty and real, and it jumps off the camera to me. So I love that. Plus, business-wise, there's just a shitload of opportunities out here from Charlotte all the way to Boston. I mean,
Yeah.
and everywhere in between. We're only going to be about 11 hours from Indy total. So we're trying to centrally locate ourselves to where, as we grow as a company, we are able to facilitate and service bigger accounts on a more regular basis versus just kind of all over the place, which is what we do now, and we love that. But I'm trying to build a team and a setup to where we can deploy at a moment's notice and regionally into some of the bigger, more populated areas because, frankly, there's just more work.
Yeah.
And a lot more work in what we want to do, which is actual like big budget documentary films and films. And
So cool.
you know, live it up, Dirt Track. We're not going to be here forever. we're trying to build to where, we can either do doc series or narrative feature length films as a production company, and we could service both those industries.
So everyone needs to call you
Well, I
now.
won't say that, but if we can step the level of the sport up as we progress, like we'll be here all along the way. But it's like, guys, we got to keep up. We can't sit where no one's taking it serious just because we love it and not take ourselves serious as a business, as a filmmaker, as a creator. I mean, I want to grow every time I turn a camera on. Like to me, when I go do something I've never done before and somebody's willing to facilitate that by paying for it, I'm now being paid basically or consolidated to go learn and grow, and they get to enjoy that because I'm pushing the limits, I'm pushing myself, and I'm giving them every inch of what I got. All the while it's being supplemented with budget, and that's just good all the way around for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I always like to leave my episode with some piece of advice. Now, I'm torn because not everyone listening really wants to do, be in the sports film industry, or maybe they want to be recorded, whichever speaks to you, Jess. Whatever speaks to you is, what advice would you give someone either looking to break into the sports film industry, kind of like what obviously what you do, or on the other side, it would be someone that wants someone like you?
So I would say, just as a whole, let's just take it as a macro. It doesn't necessarily have to be whatever it is you're into. Like I said, if you're, the best sock maker on planet Earth, kill that shit. Like, be a savage about it, right? We are the people who work 90 hours a week so we don't have to work 40, right?
Isn't that so funny? Yes.
So if you want that for your life, go after it with 110%. Now, what I'll say is people get diminished by where they're at versus where they want to be. But if you look at it as just a tool, a means to an end, if you say, I'm just doing this until I can facilitate doing that, and you truly believe that, it's not just something you're saying to yourself to make yourself feel better in the morning, things are going to happen for you. So my biggest advice to people would be, let's do it a three-parter. One, everything you do, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly, right? Savage. You have to give 110% at whatever it is you want to accomplish. 10,000 hour rule. You really want to get good at something, you really want to be professional or proficient, you have to put in the time. It's not just going to come to you, right? And when you knock on doors, don't knock, kick them in. Make people take you serious. Problem is, when you're out here asking permission for everything, you're inviting somebody to say no.
Yeah.
I don't ask yes or no questions. Period. I facilitate what I think I can do to solve your problem. Oh, you don't know you had a problem? I will map out to you what your problem is, where you're deficient, where we could help fill that gap. So that being said, as a macro, my advice is believe in yourself enough to do these things. Be a savage at it. And you're never beat as long as you get back up. Period. You're never knocked out. The fight's not over as long as you keep getting back up. Happen to life. Don't let life happen to you. You're only a victim of your circumstance if you allow life to happen to you. If you happen to life, life is a circumstance of you, right? You are not a product of your environment. Your environment's a product of you. So if you look at it like that, man, special things happen.
Dude, I always say, I'm like, okay, The only way to fail is if you quit, and either the day runs you or you run it.
That is correct. So I'm an Oregon Ducks fan, right? As
Mhm.
everybody probably knows. I used to do film work for them. It's one of the places where I got my start. They gave me my first opportunity to make real sports films. Um, they're saying forever has been win the day.
Yeah.
Win the day. What that means is no matter what you do, if today's the day where you just sit out on the porch, drink coffee, and read a book, fucking own that shit. Like, kill it. Be
Yep.
the most savage book reader on planet Earth. Whatever you do, be the alpha in the room.
Mhm.
Period. Whether you're male, female, whether you're a dishwasher, whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're president of the United States, be the baddest dude at whatever you do, or chick, or whatever it is that you do, and believe in yourself. And yeah, I mean, yeah, just be a badass, man, all day long. Just walk around like that.
Savage badass.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Jess, thank you dude, seriously, so
Hey,
much.
I appreciate you so much, and I absolutely love what you're doing here. You are doing what we talked about, which is giving this sport a voice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's refreshing to see.
Yeah.
And anybody out there watching, we need a presented by for her and her show, okay? Because it's important, and she has followers and numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, let's just keep rocking.
Yeah.
Let's just
Keep raising
keep
that bar.
building.
Keep
Yeah.
raising the bar, dude. I love it. Oh my God. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing what else you're gonna pump out there. So excited you're on the
We
East
just dropped
Coast.
Race Ready on our socials, so you
Mhm.
can check it out on Sheldon Hadenschild's YouTube page. It's
Yes.
pretty simple, Sheldon Hadenschild. And we just dropped the episode on our Instagram, also collaborating with Sheldon. So you
Mhm.
guys go like his pages, like his YouTube page. We're creating plenty more, and next year we're gonna go at it full bore again. So.
Sweet. Well, where can they find you? Where can they
Okay,
find
so we are DirtCo Media House. All our socials via Facebook, Instagram is DirtCo Media House. I've been slacking on my YouTube channel, I'll be honest with you, but just because I don't believe that's the space that we need to kind of leverage. We don't monetize our content that way.
Yeah.
We monetize through budgets, right, up front. And so you can check us out on our socials. Feel free to like our page, drop any comments, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like,
Mm.
right? To me, everybody who's always being pumped up positively and everybody's like, you're the man, or yes, yes, yes. I'm more motivated by the people who are like, dude, your shit blows. Step your game up. Or, hey, I didn't like this, or I didn't like that, or, we really want to see this. I like that because it makes me audit myself, my company, and what we're doing and push to make sure that we're like diversified on all accounts. So check
Constructive.
us out, man.
Yes, yes. Go give them all of the love. So thank you. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you to all of our listeners. Be sure to like this, subscribe it, share it on your social medias, tag us, let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, and
Yes.
we will catch you guys right back here next week. So I appreciate it, and thank you, Jess.